Welcome to the Saddle Talk Podcast, where country living meets real talk. Authentic stories, meaningful interviews, and down-to-earth wisdom with a little Southern charm. Saddle up! All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Saddle Talk Podcast, where we talk about health, life, and all things that are possible when we look beyond the noise. Today, I have a very special guest that I have known since the seventh grade. It's been a long time coming. She has done a lot of phenomenal things when it comes to movies and theater and things like that, and directing. So I was excited to have her on the show, and I'm really excited. You all are in for a treat. Her name is Tina A. Burkhalter. She is an actor, a director, an educator with the MFA in acting from California State University, Fullerton. She has performed in Fences, Intimate Apparel, Precious Little, Dark and Stormy, and her original one-woman show, Miss Life in 2X. She is also a director that includes Top Dog, Underdog, Stop Kiss, Dog See God. She's currently associate professor of theater at South Louisiana Community College. Now, she has a lot of other accolades, but I don't want to spoil a surprise. So, without further ado, Tina, thank you for coming on and being a part of this.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I don't know if it was a typo, but my solo show is My Life in 2X.
Okay, life in 2X, guys.
My Life in
Get
2X.
that right. So we make sure we cleared that up. But yeah, so it's a pleasure to have you on. And yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm associate professor of theater at South Louisiana Community College. I've been there since 2018, where I moved here for the job. I'm originally from here, but I was living in Southern California at the time. And it was a decision that I wasn't sure if I made the right decision because, being an actor, living in Southern California, that's one of the three, big hubs for acting. It's LA, New York, Chicago. And so I was like, well, if I leave, am I gonna, still be able to act? And what is the likelihood, of being out here in Lafayette, Louisiana, a small little town? And I've gotten a lot of work actually being down here. So I think it was a blessing in disguise being here. I'm part of a theater company, one of the founding members of the theater company. And so that has provided a lot of opportunity, as you mentioned, for directing, for acting. So I think it was the right decision and I'm happy that I made it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like when we were growing up in Birmingham, Alabama, you attended the Alabama School of Fine Arts. Now, is this something? Is this where you like, you made up in your mind, like, hey, this acting is something that I want to do? Because ASFA is the school. I mean, we always called y'all the smart kids, y'all are Ramsey or whatever. But it's like, is this where you got your acting itch, or you just knew that you wanted to do it after attending Alabama School of Fine Arts?
Well, I my first play, I was 7 when I was in my first play. So
Wow.
it's always kind of been something that's been there. And ironically, after I went to the School of Fine Arts, I went to LSU for my first bachelor's degree. I have 3 degrees and I'm working on my fourth one now, but we could talk about that
Wow.
later. But I I actually was burnt out from theater when I left the School of Fine Arts, so I didn't major in theater. And I took a 20-year hiatus. So once I graduated from LSU, I did minor in it because I still didn't want to get rid of it. But I wanted to be the quote unquote normal, college kid because as you know, at the Alabama School of Fine Arts, there were no sports, so it was all the arts. And so, being out here at a SEC college football is a really big thing out here, and I
Roll Tide,
wanted to
by the
be,
way.
oh, go Tigers. And I wanted to be part of that, and I wanted to feel like I could get a normal college kid, and I thought that was not theater. So
Uh-huh.
I didn't do theater. I did a couple of plays in college, but it wasn't my major. When I graduated, I went into retail management actually, and I did that for almost 20 years.
Real, wow.
Yeah,
I
I
can
did that.
totally see you doing fashion.
Well, yeah, I did that for almost 20 years, and
Okay.
In 2011, I call it the best worst day of my life. I lost my
Okay.
job. I lost
Okay.
my job. I never forget it, August of 2011, I lost my job. And in April of 2011, I had just bought a condo. So now,
Wow.
yes, a few months later,
Wow.
I have no job. I literally had to get on unemployment to help to pay some of the bills because it didn't, it wasn't making what made. But luckily, they gave
Uh-huh.
me a severance package. I call it the best worst day because I was starting to get jaded by retail management. I was getting
Oh
burnt
yeah.
out. I didn't want to do it. And, you know, I always say, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. I would cry.
Right.
I would tell God, I don't want to go. I don't want this. I don't, and he made it happen, and
Yeah.
and it wasn't great at the time, but it did catalyst me into what I'm doing now because I was like, what am I going to do? I know I don't want to
Uh-huh.
do retail management anymore. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to school,
Uh-huh.
get my degree in theater, um, and then we'll go from there. So the idea was, by January of 2012, I was enrolled in UNLV, and I got my second bachelor's degree in theater from UNLV. Um, so I want to tell you how I got from there to grad school. Because at the time I thought I was like, oh,
Okay.
I'm just going to be an actor. I'm just going to be an actor. How that was going to happen, I had no clue. I was like, I'm just going to follow. I'm going to let God order my steps and I'm just going to keep, this is the plan now and we'll see where that goes. So one day I did a presentation for my theater history class and it was on
Okay.
Langston Hughes and the Harlem Renaissance. And afterwards, my teacher came up to me. I was walking across campus, and she said, your presentation was really good, and you have a knack for pedagogy. I said, what is that? I never heard of it. She said, she said it's a fancy way of teaching, a fancy way to say teaching. And so I was like, well, I know that if I'm going to teach, I only want to teach college. I do not want to teach K through 12. And she said, well,
Yeah, man.
yeah. And she said, well, if you want to do that, you need your master's. And from that point on, I said, say less. And that's what that's what I did. I finished my degree, magna cum laude, thank you, from UNLV.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Well, you
Mhm.
did go to School of Fine Arts, man. So, like I say, the smart kids, man.
Okay. And then I got my master's, as you said, from Cal State Fullerton. And so I was teaching out there. I taught adjunct for a year out there. And then this job came available and I took it. And I've been here ever since 2018.
So now, in your introduction, there were a lot of films that you were part of, and you also directed. Now, how did all of that start? Like, how did you get involved in directing and being in films? And I mean, even doing your own film. Like, I mean, it's always been a curiosity of mine, how people come up with the concept of, like, say for instance, they write books or they're author or they have an idea in their head and then they put it on screen because that's not easy to do.
Well, so the films I did were mostly short films.
Okay.
So short films, I've done three. So short films, I think it was 14 minutes or less.
Uh-huh.
Those, I want to say I auditioned for one, and the other ones, I was asked if I wanted
Okay.
to be part of it. But I will say my solo show is live theater. It's not a film.
Okay.
It is live theater. Me personally, I prefer live theater versus film
Uh-huh.
just because I like the energy from the crowd. And, depending on what kind of crowd you get a different performance each time. But I don't
Right.
want to toot my own horn, but I'm good at what I do. I mean, simple as that. I am good at what I do and I put in the work for it and you can see it on the
Uh-huh.
stage. And I think that resonates with people. And so sometimes I get asked if I want to do these things, so I
Okay.
don't turn
So
them down.
how did how does the directing come into play?
So when the directing where I directed, I was asked to do that as well. Um, with that, I feel like because I teach acting, It's kind of just
Oh, okay.
yeah. So I teach acting at the South Louisiana Community College. We say SOLA CC, so I'm going to say SOLA CC from here on out.
Right.
But I teach acting there, so it wasn't a big jump, and for me, and the theater company that I'm a part of, Heritage Parks Black Theater Experience, also known as
Hmm.
BTE. We do a summer
Okay.
intensive for 2 weeks for middle school and high school students. So I'm constantly teaching. I teach acting. I teach voice techniques for the stage as well. I teach private lessons as
Really?
well. Yeah. So it just it just is par for the course. Um, the play I'm about to do now, we have our table read. We just did auditions last weekend. We're doing our table read tomorrow, actually, for Fabulation by Lynn Nottage, my favorite playwright. And I am the lead in that, and I'm co directing. So, yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So what is it like being a teacher, like teaching like, like acting per se? What is that like in the classroom? Now I'm really curious about that.
Interesting. It all depends on who your students are. There's a
Uh,
saying that I remember hearing when I first started at Solar CC that said, you want to meet the students where they are.
okay.
So you're gonna have students, you might have some that, you tell them something and they get it and they're on. And then sometimes you have a student who they don't get it. So you got to work with them a little bit more. So
Right.
I tailor how I teach to the student.
Okay.
Because they may not all come in and be at the same level. And I tell them, if you do the work, my feedback for you will look different than somebody who doesn't do the work and doesn't put in the
Mhm.
effort. Um, but I also tell the students that it's not about right or wrong choices. It's about different choices. And what I mean choices, the choices that you make about your character, what you do on stage, or what you do when you're performing, um, to let them know that it's a safe space for them. So hopefully they're
Mhm.
not afraid to make mistakes. And I put that in quotes. There's no really mistakes. It's just again a different choice. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, doing that, and also for my students, I tell them it is an acting class, yes, but I don't grade you on how well you act, you know,
Oh.
because because it's in an educational setting. Right?
Mhm.
So they're learning.
Right.
Some of these people have never acted at all. What I grade
Mhm.
them on is, did they put in the effort? I'm going to give you feedback, things you need to work on. Did you work on those things? Or am I giving you the same feedback every single time, which means you haven't worked on it? Are you memorized? You know, um, and I can tell if I've given them the feedback in class. I can tell if they went home and worked on it um, when they come back. Like when they come back for the next class and they get up
Mhm.
there and perform again, I can tell whether or not they have rehearsed or put any work into it. Um, and so that's what I do. So then that way I think that also takes down the level where they're not
Mhm.
feeling like, oh, that person was really, really good. They're gonna get a better grade. That's not what I'm
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm
So
not
how do you teach? Do you teach timing? Because sometimes it's just kind of like when you're acting, not only do you have to act, but you have to make it so it appears that you're not acting, but then you also have to have like good timing. Like, how does that work?
well, timing I feel like is a lot more with comedy versus
Oh, okay.
contemporary, Um, I just think I always tell this is one of the things. It's funny you say that because I just had one of my in one of my acting lessons, private lessons, I told the student, I said, what I want you to work on is the connection to your character. So I gave her
Mm,
homework to answer these questions about her character because I felt like for her, it was more important for her to build the connection to her character, and then everything
mhm,
else would come along after that. A lot of times people will tell me, oh, I like when you did this, this, and this. And then I'll say, oh, I didn't even know I did it because I'm not practicing moving this way, moving that way, going like this, doing
gotcha.
that. I'm focused on being the character And when I focus on becoming the character, everything else that comes out of it is organic. It's not, that's why most of the time I don't know what I'm doing. And I tell my
Hmm.
students, what I want you to do is become the character. I don't want you to act like what you think the character looks like, if that
Got
makes sense.
you.
And I
Yeah.
always tell them acting is not about thinking, it's about doing. So I might give them
Oh,
feedback.
wow.
Yeah, I might give them feedback and then they'll say, "So you want me?" I say, just do it. Let me just see. Let's do it and see what that looks like to you. I don't want, because then if you get too far into your head, then you start doubting yourself.
I can see that totally. Like, if like say you being in a play, like I've been in plays, but nothing on your level. But sometimes you get so far into your head and you started thinking of what everybody's thinking, or am I portraying this right, or am I not? But like you said, you have to like, get to know the character and become one with them and not what you think it'd be, but like, what you do and stuff. And I never really thought about that. It's a serious craft that you do have to practice. And I've always been curious when people say, I went to acting school. So I'm just kind of like, what is that like? Do you all just get like scripts and whoever has the best script, that's who gets a good grade? Like, so do you all do they do textbook work as well?
Yes, so they have to analyze their work, their monologues. I teach acting
Hmm.
1 and acting 2. So acting 1, our intro to acting is monologues, and then when they go into acting 2, they're working with a scene partner and doing scenes. So
Hmm.
yes, they have to analyze they have to read the play. They have to read the play, so they have to find out where their monologue or their scene fits into the entire world of the play. And then they have to even break down their monologue into what we call beats and actions. And it's all this whole thing. But I teach them,
Wow.
yeah, I teach them how to do it. And yes, they do realize at the end that it's a lot more than what they thought it was. I think sometimes people think acting is just memorizing words and saying them on stage. I just
That would
did
be me. That's what I thought it
well,
was. That's me.
look, I just did this play called What the Constitution Means to Me. And
Uh,
basically, it's 3 people in the play, but I pretty much it's like, I would say maybe 60 pages, and I would say 57 of those pages is just me. And
okay.
so, yeah, and you'd be surprised how many times I get people who come up to me at the end of the play and ask me, "How did I memorize all those lines?" You
Yeah.
know, that's the one thing that they like, "How did you memorize it?" And it's a technique that I've learned,
Uh-huh.
and that I consistently use. I learned it in grad school, and I've been using it for over 10 years. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Wow, I didn't know it went and all that, but yes, I would be the one that come up to you and be like, "How did you memorize all that?" Because I'm thinking like, not only do you have to memorize it, but then you have to like, add the emotion to, different parts and things like that. And it's just kind of like sometimes when you are like, I'm assuming reading a book is kind of like reading a script. It's kind of like the script is in the form of a book. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like, how do you convey what that person is trying to come across? Or do you just kind of like make it up as you go, or you present it how you think it is, or how do you portray what that character is in the book? Say, for instance, if I read a book, right, and then I go see the film version of it, and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's not what I thought that character would be like, or versus someone saying like, that's exactly what I thought that character would be like. It described that person perfectly. You know what I mean?
It's funny you say that because I remember, and I had to change it. So they do 3 monologues. I picked the first one and the last one, but I let them pick the second one. And at the time, I used to let them pick from a TV show or a movie or whatever. But I stopped doing
Hmm.
that because they weren't making it their own. They were just trying to make it like what they saw. And that's what I didn't want. I wanted you to make it like
Mm.
your own. And so I had to take that element away. The biggest thing is, and I tell this, I always ask the students, I say, how many of y'all, when you read a play or when you read something, y'all put a voice on it, y'all imagine what they look like, and you did all that, and they all raised their hand. So I said, okay, so now apply that to your character. When you were reading your character, what did they sound like? What did they look like? How did they move? And just
Mm.
apply that apply that on stage. And one of the things I always tell students is you're going to mess up. Period. You do live theater long enough, you're going to mess up. However, the only way they know that you mess up is if you tell them. Meaning that,
Yeah.
because they don't know the script. They don't
Right.
know the script, So, and I tell them stories where I have messed up on stage. I did what the Constitution means to me. And my sister afterwards, she said, "Did you mess up?" I said, "Could you tell I messed up?" She said, "No." I said, "Exactly. But I did mess up." But that's the point. Like, I knew I messed up. My
Right.
peers, the actors knew, and the director knew, but nobody in the audience knew, and they don't care. I did a scene.
Right.
I did a play called Anna in the Tropics, and this whole scene revolved around me lighting a cigar, and because we owned a cigar factory in Tampa in the 1940s, so I would start smoking the cigar and pass it around this room, and everybody in the room would take a toke and they would say something about the cigar, like it's great, it's wonderful, it tastes like this or whatever. Well,
Gotcha.
if you've ever smoked a cigar, you have to kind of toke and puff, So it's a little bit different than just taking a toke from a cigarette, right?
Right.
So my character goes to get some matches and goes to do it, and it goes out. Because when I take the puff to blow it out, the match goes out. So I get another one. All right, cool. Do it again. It goes out. I go back to the box of matches, and it's empty. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to do at this point. I can't light it. I just kind of stood there. So somebody else came, and he was like going to help me. My character was drunk, so I just played it off like I was drunk. So
Okay.
he comes and brings and is going to help me, and he goes to try to light the match, and he realizes the box is empty. So he's kind of standing there like, what to do? So what he ends up doing is he says, "Oh, we have a cigar," which was the last line of that scene. So we didn't pass it around because, right. And you know what the audience did? They clapped. They clapped.
Wow.
So they know we got through it, and that is one
Right.
of the things I love about live theater. That happened about 10 years ago, and I still tell that story to this day. And again, that's what I
Well,
love about live
that's
theater.
pretty good though, because it's got like if you put on a good performance, nobody's really going to know if you messed up or not, and then if you're having fun with it. So, what's just some of your best work that you've been in? I know you say you've directed, and then you've been in films. What were some of the which ones were the best ones that you were just kind of like, oh, I would like to do something like that again?
I love doing
Or were
fencing.
all of them the best ones?
Well, no. There are some. Because I will say, I think a director can make or break that experience. But
Oh, okay.
I will say that fences at Curtain, when we did our last Curtain call, I cried because it was first of all, it was a sold out show. Second of all,
Uh-huh.
standing ovations every night. And I cried, you know, um, I enjoyed doing that. And I also did a play called Doubt. They
Okay.
made it a movie. Meryl Streep, plays the lead, and, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Wow.
And the role that I played was played by Viola Davis in the movie. It's only only had one scene. Um, but I cannot tell you how many people came up to me at the end and was like, "That was great. That was awesome. Oh my
Wow.
God." And one of my teachers in grad school said there are no small parts, only small
Mhm.
actors. So I
You
took
are
that to
so
heart.
right about that. It is so many movies that I have seen, and it's been one person that had a small role, and that's one of the characters that you remember all the time or whatever. And I'm always like, man, that person right there just bloomed into a star. A star was born right then. So that is remarkable. If you had that one little bit of coverage, and you made an impact to where someone just was like, that was so awesome. That's pretty cool. That's pretty
Yeah,
amazing right there.
yeah.
So acting, man, it's just a whole nother level of it's that's just a whole nother level of being to me. I've always been fascinated by people. Like, say for instance, if you are in a movie and your movie is about you trying to be in a movie. So not only are you acting as that character, but then you have to pretend like you are going to acting classes in the movie. So you're kind of like double acting.
right?
I always found that like really fascinating. It's like, how do you go from, all right, so I'm acting and I'm at one with the character, but then I got to act like I'm trying to audition for another character in a movie and things like that. Have you ever done anything like that? Or how do people do that? That's pretty impressive.
Biggest thing I can say, again, goes back to focusing on finding out who your character is. What I teach intro to theater, which is a lecture class. And one of
Okay.
the things they talk about is the 4 items of characterization: biology,
Mhm.
socioeconomic status, ethical, and psychology. So what does the
Okay.
play tell you when you're reading the play? What does it tell you about your biology, your age? Do you have a disability, or or anything like that? What is your status? What's your job? So figuring out those things. What are people saying about you in the script? You know, when you're not around, how are they treating you when you are around?
Mhm.
And then what is your relationship to every person in the script? And I always say focus on those things. If you
Mhm.
focus on your given circumstances, the who are you? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Where are you doing it? What's keeping you going to the next scene and the next scene and the next scene? Then again, everything will come naturally. But if you
Mhm.
sit there and then try to project what it's going to look like when you're on stage, then that's when it comes off being um contrived, and and the audience won't buy it. The audience is a lot smarter than I think people think. You
Mhm.
and I always tell the actor, let it be clear to you. Don't worry about the audience. The audience will come along, because if it's clear to you, then it's clear to me. I would have
Uh-huh.
students who would do like an acting. We had an acting exercise, and say they had a brochure or something to like the prom or something like that, and they would try to fix it to where they would show us, the audience, what it is. But I'm just like, no, don't show us what it is. You look at it and you respond to whatever it is, and that lets us know what it is. Now, do we need to know if exactly what it says? No, but we can figure out where it fits into the world of the scene based on how you respond to it and everything else that happens. So again, make it clear to you. A lot of times I'll ask a student a question and they'll say, I don't know. I said, exactly. And it's clear that you
Mhm.
don't know by the choices that you're making. So
Oh, wow.
make it clear to you and specific to you, and the audience would get it.
Got you. So what are some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome, when you are in these productions or directing or teaching? And like and what lessons would you or what advice would you give to someone who's trying to, do something that along the level of success that you've gotten to?
Ironically, I just did What the Constitution Means to Me, and it was one of the hardest shows that I've had to do. Um,
Mhm.
Part of it was the play is about a Heidi, who I played, who when she was in high school, she would go around to American Legion halls giving debates about the Constitution for prize money, and she was so good at it that it paid for her college education. And
Mhm.
so in the show, she goes back to that. So I'm here as 15-year-old Heidi, giving speeches about the Constitution. So I have to make sure that is on point and correct. I am quoting the Constitution. So, I have to make sure I'm getting it verbatim, which is difficult, because in this instance, they would know if you messed up. because there might be,
Yeah.
right, there might be one person in the audience who knows what the 14th Amendment is. And if you don't
Yeah.
say it right, so it was that and the way she told her stories. So so say there's A, B, and C, right? She might
Mhm.
go from A to D and then come back to B to bring it back to C. And it all
Mhm.
came together and made sense once you got to the end. But it was hard for me to connect the dots with some of the story because I also
Mhm.
tell my people, just know the story you're telling instead of trying to memorize the words, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of good sense. Like, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, know the story, and it's kind of like so hopefully this is relatable. So it's like when I was in college, I was in the band, and our band director used to say that the whole time. He was like, "You got to know what we're trying to come across when we're on the field. Don't just know your part. Know why we're doing this. You should know where the trumpets are going to be. You should know where the tubas are going to be. You should know what their role in this is, or what everybody's role in this." He was like, "You have to listen across the field." And at first, I was like, "What is this guy talking about?" But then afterwards, I finally got it. Like, you have to know the production and not just know your part, because you can tell, like, when it comes to a band, when they're on the field, like what band really knows their stuff and what band just kind of like, just kind of like flying by the radar. You know what I'm saying? Or just on a whim and a prayer. So that totally makes sense. Like, yeah, you need to know the story, not just your part, but you need to know the story, because I guess if you know the whole story, then your character knows how to react to everybody in the story. You know what I mean? Like all of the characters and things like that. That makes perfectly good sense. That's really good. So, like I say, what advice would you give to someone who's trying to follow in your footsteps?
Never give up. I started this career over again, or let's say over again. I switched careers at 35. I'm 49. And it's never too late. It's never too late and I feel like I don't want to get too religious here, but I will say this. I feel like God will provide. God provides,
Hmm.
right? You may ask for something and he'll give it to you, but it may not be right for you. And if it's not right
Yeah.
for you, it doesn't work. It's hard. It's difficult, right? The
Hmm.
moment when I went into this career, it's been easy sailing ever since. You know,
Wow.
So I say, don't give up. Don't doubt yourself. Be confident
Right.
in the choices that you make. Let God order your steps. Don't try to, so then from that point on, for me, I always pray for whatever is in my best interest versus,
Oh, that is perfectly said.
yeah.
Pray for what's in your best interest. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? That is a good takeaway from me. Pray
Yeah.
for what is in your best interest.
Right.
You are that you just solved half of my problems right now on the spot.
And I would
Because a
say,
lot of times we play. Go
go,
ahead.
go, go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
I was like, because a lot of times we pray for stuff and it might not be in our best interest. It might be an interest where we think it should be, but we're not ready for it or mature enough at the time to take that on. And then, we're wondering why our prayers are being answered. But it's like we're not praying for our best interest. And no matter how you look at it, God is going to place you where you need to be, where He thinks you need to be at that specific time, no matter what you pray for, because He's not going to set you up for failure or disaster. But pray for your best interest. That you just solved a lot of my problems.
And again, have confidence, have faith, don't give up. I think a lot of times people think, oh, I'm 35. I'm too old to go back to school. I got my master's at 40. I was 40 when I got my master's. There was 6 of us. Yes. Was I the oldest one in the class? Sure. Yes. But I also think age is a mindset. You're only old if you feel that way. Uh,
Hmm.
and so again, don't give up, put in the work. Um, and don't try to, like, you remember when I said before I was going to go back to school and just be an actor. I didn't know, and go get my degree in
Hmm.
theater. I didn't know what was going to happen after I got out of school, but then somebody came up to me and said, you should teach college, or you should teach. And then that
Hmm.
became, and then I got the opportunity to teach. And then I got the opportunity to be a resident member of this theater company, you know, which was validation for me that I moved here and that was the right thing for me to do. So don't ever doubt yourself. And just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to take the risk. I let fear stifle me, but now I let that fear push me and propel me further.
Oh man, you know what? It's funny that you say like the fear and because sometimes fear can lead to like anger and things like that. And I was talking to some one person at one time who was like, a lot of inventions and a lot of great things happen when you go through pain or when adversity happens because you're angry, you're scared, you're fearful because you can't really control the situation. But then it comes to a point where you have no choice, and that fear fades really quick because you're like, well, I mean, like you always have options, but I feel like when you're in that mode of fear or anger, you can like channel it in the right direction to prepare you for it, or you can just like be at the status quo. I always said that like when back in the day before lawnmowers were made, it was probably somebody who was like, man, I'm so tired and angry, and I'm tired of like using this whack. What is it called? Where
Weed
you
whacker?
whack the grass
Yeah, I
the
know
the
that
the with a
machete.
metal thing.
It-
Yeah, he was like, it's got to be an easier way to do this. So then they invented like the lawnmower. So that anger and that frustration helped them to create something easier that benefits everyone. And then that goes on to like the fear, man. It's just like fear can be like a big obstacle, even in my life, it was a lot of times where I was fearful for doing something or doing things where I had to speak in front of like 100 plus people, or I had to like go do this sale on this house or and stuff like that. And I'm just kind of like, you know what, man, let me just relax and release or whatever. Let me
Just
calm
relate,
this down a
relate.
little bit. Yeah, you know what I mean. And you just got to go for what you know and things like that, man. But like I really my biggest takeaway from you is that pray for your best interests. I mean, that sums up so many things on so many levels that you can't even begin to understand how many problems that you just solved or
Mhm.
whatever. And I'm pretty sure it solves the problems for people out there as well. Hey, I saw that you were getting into CrossFit too. I do the whole bodybuilding thing, and CrossFit is some things that I like to do a lot too. How do you like doing that?
Okay, so technically it's not CrossFit. I tried
Okay,
CrossFit.
okay,
I would say it's more like hit circuit, more like hit or
okay, okay.
interval training. But I will
Gotcha,
say
gotcha.
this. I tried CrossFit and I couldn't.
Mhm.
No, it was just too hard all the time.
Yeah,
Don't get me
yeah.
wrong. What I'm doing, so I go to F45. The F in
Mhm.
F45 stands for functional. So the idea is the things that we're doing are helping you with your mobility and movement and things like that outside of work, just
Oh,
in life, right?
gotcha.
And
Yeah.
so, like for example, you know what a kip up is, right? A kip up, where you go on the bar, you kick your feet, and you try to make your feet touch the bar while you're hanging there.
Oh, yeah, yeah, well, we call it hanging abs.
Okay, well
Yeah.
that I have
That's
no
hard.
desire. Yes, and I have no desire to do that in my real life. Um,
Yeah.
so there's nothing that I'm going to gain from that. So I'm going to give you an example how F45 helped me in my real life. Went to New York for an acting workshop for the National Black Theater, and me and my sister we were traveling, and we were gonna arrive at the airport around the same time and take a shuttle to our hotel. Well, she got there before me. My flight got delayed. So she called me and she said, Tina, well, the shuttle is $100. And I was like, well, Gina, I got to get there. She said, well, you could take the subway. I said, I ain't taking the subway. She said, it's $3. I said, okay, what train am I taking? So then she said, but I want to warn you, there are no elevators. Now I had 3 bags. I had the big suitcase that, you have to put, the one that they weigh up to 50 pounds, that one. I had my
Yeah.
little travel size one that I could carry on, my carry on, and a duffel bag and my purse.
Wow.
So I get to the subway, and I'm having to go down these stairs, up another flight, and da-da-da. So I'm carrying them. Do you know what a farmer's carry is, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
That
So
is, and a lot of people don't know that is extremely hard after you
yes,
walking a long time with two things in your hand that's very heavy.
yes. So I did a high rocks competition, and we had to use 36-pound kettlebells for the farmer's carry. So I was like, well, this ain't nothing but a farmer's carry, and it's a lot lighter than 36 pounds in each hand.
Yeah.
So, I'm grabbing them, I'm carrying them, I'm walking, and it was so funny. People were like, "Do you need help? Are you good?" I was like, "I got this. I got this." And I
Gotcha.
remember thinking, okay, F-45, you helping me in the clutch because I'm 36 pounds in each hand, and this was a piece of cake. So that's my little
There you
story
go.
about how F-45 helped me use what I learned there outside. Yeah.
So if someone wanted to, like, see some of your work, like some of your the productions that you've directed or some of the short films that you've been in, how would they go about doing that?
Well, if they go onto YouTube and just type in Tina A. Burkhalter, I have a couple of scenes. I also have a book of poetry. So,
Oh, okay.
mhm. It's This Is Me, Tina A. Burkhalter. You can get it on Amazon or any place where they sell books. I'm just gonna put that little shameless plug in there. But
No, go ahead. Yeah, that's what I want you to do. Like, plug all your stuff.
yeah, so they can go onto YouTube and see some of the I think I have a poem on there that I've done. I have a couple my demo reel is on there. There's a short film that I did called Heritage, spelled
Hmm.
heritage. You can go on there and you just put in heritage, Tina A. Burkhalter, it'll pop up. And then you can also I have a website, tinaaburkhalter.com. So Tina with two A's, Burkhalter, .com, and then Instagram, TAB 1376. So T is in Tom, A is in Apple, B is in boy, 1376. That's also my handle for TikTok as well. So,
Okay.
but I use Instagram mostly. So if you want to find out information on what's going on, what I'm about to do, and things like that, you can always look on my Instagram. I'll have my workout stuff. I'll have my acting stuff on there as well. So, yep.
And if anyone wanted to take your class, you say you do private classes. Now, do you travel or is it just local? Or I mean, if the price is right, I mean, like, hey.
Just hit me up. You can email me. You can email me at tab1376 at hotmail.com, or you can just send me a DM through Instagram at tab1376. And
All
I
right.
can
Well,
discuss rates and all that.
well, that's what's up. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. I did not know the extent of everything that you did. You have done, accomplished a lot, and we look forward to the many more things that you have. Do you have anything coming out, or that we should look out for, anything like that?
If you're in the Lafayette area, I'm doing Fabulation at Cité des Arts, May the 8th through the 10th, so Mother's Day weekend. I'm co-directing that show as well as playing the lead in that show. So it's Fabulation by Lynn Nottage, my favorite playwright. I'll
Okay.
be working
All
all year.
right. Oh yeah, I see. Well, I mean, like you got a lot. Man, you carrying a heavy load, but you seem to be doing it pretty well. Like, you always have had like a vibrant spirit. Like, you know what I mean? So you've always been like very upbeat, So I don't doubt that you probably wouldn't be doing anything that's just, phenomenal or anything less than phenomenal. So, I mean, we look forward to seeing more and hearing more from you. Then I'm gonna bring you back on because I'm gonna start doing like traveling episodes and things like that. So I definitely come down there and visit Louisiana. You're in Lafayette, right?
We're in Lafayette, so we can meet. We can
Okay.
meet in New Orleans.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
although according to Mr. Chime Time, the food out here is better than New Orleans. Do you know who Mr.
Okay.
Chime
Oh,
Time
yeah, I
is?
did see him do something
Uh-huh.
like that on New Orleans and things like that. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a good time today with Tina A. Burkhalter. I have like links in the description in order to get to her. And like I always say, keep it country, keep it cowboy, and God bless America. Thank you, Tina, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.